Have you ever wondered what it's like to own your own business? Be your own boss? Welcome to Season 7 of Business Mentorship, Keepin It Real, where we meet with corporate leaders who have taken the leap to business owner and join us as part of the Share Your Stories.online series. Hello, I'm Trish Tonai, and today we're going to meet a small business owner, celebrate their great idea, and introduce you to the person behind the logo. We invite you to sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. Hello and welcome to the show. Our guest joins us from Red Deer, Alberta. Deena Kordt is the founder of her own firm as an author, a publisher, speaker, and advocate for women. Her podcast, Shift Happens, shares stories of resilience with discussions on how to navigate life's changes with more ease and less drama. Deena's going to share her story on entrepreneurship and give us a behind-the-scenes look into the life of a small business owner. I'd like to welcome and introduce everyone to Deena.
Well, thank you, Trish. That was very lovely.
It's an absolute pleasure to meet you.
Likewise. Yes, I'm excited to be here.
You know, one of the things that I really appreciate when folks share their stories is giving us a little bit of the behind the scenes into, what it's like to be an entrepreneur. So tell us a little bit about your book.
My book is about manifesting, mainly. I have a few books out. I want to say I kind of got carried away with self-publishing. I was inspired to create books where people can have a keepsake for their family around family traditions, family recipes. And that was what came out of COVID. Then I also created some rodeo record books for all the Western, the people who have, whether it's 4-H, whatever. Those were kind of where I dipped my toes. And then I got ready to share more of my own voice. So I had a blog already at that time. Mm-hmm. And I took the majority of those pieces and I added a whole bunch more. And it's all around guiding people into how to manifest. And many are curious. It's a beginner's guide. It's mostly for women, but I have had friends say, I shared this with a guy friend of mine or my brother, and they said, I know this is written for women, but I got so much out of it. So that was really fascinating. Yeah. And then I also created a companion journal, and it expands on the book that I wrote, and also gives people more space for journaling and really building those manifesting muscles. So yeah, that's where the book started.
Now tell me, how many years have you actually been in business? When did you start?
That's I've done a little bit of other things, social media management. Mm-hmm. Tried starting a baking business, and that was just before COVID, so nobody was entertaining. Right. So that was, I don't want to say it was a flop. It was fun. And, it also helped me define that some things are meant to be enjoyable as a hobby, and it kind of takes the fun out of it when it's a business. Right. So I would say I started being an entrepreneur probably about 8 years ago.
Wow. Well, I love the iterations, right? Because we all start a business with a great idea. Mm-hmm. And as you say, it's not that the great idea isn't successful. It's just that sometimes we grow and move in a totally different direction, which creates a new opportunity, right?
Exactly.
Now, Obviously you were manifesting, because clearly in order to move from one discipline to another, that takes a lot of courage, because you have to totally rework the behind the scenes for a business that's going in a totally different direction, right?
That's so true, Trish. And I think the other thing that I learned was to follow your instincts. And an invitation crosses your path and you're like, okay, that's a change in direction, or listen to your reaction to it. Are you intrigued? Are you drawn to it? Does it feel like a fit? How's the timing? Just there's a reason I like to refer to these outside forces as the universe trying to line things up for you.
Yeah, your
And
intuition almost, right?
yes, yes.
Because we
So
call it
listen to those.
intuition or gut instinct, right? We say, oh, well, my gut instinct says that, I should do this and not that. But we don't really know where it's coming from. We just say, it's a feeling that I have, right?
And we don't need to question where it's coming from or give it a name.
Right.
I think that if we start listening to ourselves, and sometimes the message that comes through is, you need a rest, you need a pivot, you need
Right.
to try something different, you need to not listen to that person, or here's somebody who knows what they're talking about, and how does that land with you? It isn't always comfortable, but if there's any sense of intrigue or you're interested, a lot of times that imposter syndrome comes in. It's like, you aren't qualified for that. Who do you think you are to
Right.
consider that? But
Right.
why not? Like, life is so short.
Yeah.
And we hear this over and over, but I had some very harsh reminders of that. I lost two brothers on separate occasions as they were very young adults. And it's like, here's another reminder to live your life. Try it. Just go
It
for it.
almost gives you a wake up call, right?
Huge.
When we come across, because there's always barriers and obstacles and things that happen that make us move outside our comfort zone. Yeah. And so when we embrace the change, usually what we find on the other side of the barrier is something more wonderful than we could have ever expected, right?
Exactly.
Let's shift gears a little bit to talk about, no pun intended, to talk about your podcast, Shift Happens. How did that name come about? And what made you decide that you wanted to share voices in your podcast?
Ooh, such good questions. I can't wait to dig in. This is actually my second show. My main show is the Life Changes channel. That's the podcast that goes out across Spotify, Apple, and all the rest. That came originally from the Divorce Magazine Canada that I bought 3 years ago. So a lady had started that, and I was looking for a way to connect with people, support people, reach people. And she was looking for someone to take this over. And it just synchronicities lined right up. I just loved this opportunity. So I started instantly with the Divorce Magazine Canada podcast, just as a supplement to it, another way for people to be connected with the experts that were out there to support them. And then I changed it because I added a second magazine called Life Changes. They're now merged as Life Changes and Divorce Magazine. I took it from an annual print to a quarterly digital and added newsletters on the other 8 months. And so that Life Changes channel is the main one. And then a friend of mine, Carrie Hansen, she has her own radio talk show. And I said to her, I would love to do one with you. We should do one together. And then I came up with the Shift Happens show. And what we talk about, the shifts we talk about, they happen all the time in our lives. Some are positive, some are negative. Some are expected, some are unexpected. And even some of the positives have some challenges when you actually get into them, right? So we wanted to have a little fun. And we have some that are unfiltered and we have some that are clean cut. And we tackle a lot of different topics. And we dig right in and think, okay, so what are all the different perspectives that might be around this shift? And is there a different way to reframe them? And is there a way even to add humor? And is there a way that we can navigate these shifts and even support each other or better understand them ourselves? So it's really fun to dig into these and just see where it goes. And we do have guests on the show sometimes too.
Okay, so collaborating on a podcast is it more conversational for our viewing and listening audience? We tend to think that podcasts like the ones that we're having, we're having a conversation about your business and, what your passions are and what it's like to be an entrepreneur. So when you have a co-host though on a podcast, do you pick the topic ahead of time and then just let it roll?
Yes.
Yeah.
we both come into it with some thoughts. And what's cool about the talk show versus the way that I host the Life Changes channel is on the Life Changes channel, I'm really focusing on that expertise that the guest brings. And it also is there's also peers. So there's, say, divorce diaries or people sharing their own personal journey. They might not be someone that offers a service of support. In the talk show, it's more our own stage. We're expressing more of our own perspectives and thoughts and maybe some research we've pulled around that topic. And if we have guests, then it's a little slightly more interview style in a conversation.
Right.
So it's really been fun to have that stage to,
I love the two options.
I know it's fun.
It's a really great way to be able to share your personal perspective. And then in the interview style, you're highlighting that particular individual or business owner's expertise and perspective. So I love the two different angles that you have. That's a really great perspective.
And Trish, one of the best pieces of feedback I received from my husband when I started the Life Changes channel, and it really speaks to that in recovering invisible woman piece.
Right.
We love podcasts. And what I didn't pick up on in my own podcast was how little I was sharing about myself or my story that related to that conversation.
Right.
And it really is something I appreciate from other hosts. And when I listen to podcasts, and so I thought that was phenomenal feedback, because it's like, oh, why am I'm kind of hiding, and that creates that trust with your audience to share pieces of your own story.
Yeah, for sure. One of the things that when I was speaking last year, I was talking about was our visibility adds to our credibility.
Right? Oh, that's good. That's good.
Don't you agree?
Absolutely.
Showing up on the various different, options that we have to share our stories only adds to who we are and why we're doing what we're doing. And it gives people an idea to feel that they know us a little bit better.
I love that.
Yeah. Now, speaker, what's your topic? What's the topic that you love to speak about?
I'm most passionate about a topic that's quite heavy and carries a lot of negative stigma, and that's around the epidemic of domestic abuse, domestic violence.
Unfortunate.
The more we speak out, the more we can create awareness and create change. We're not going to eradicate it. I hope that we will in some generation, but I do hope that we can make a difference. And I really want deeply in my heart to create compassionately curious communities of support. And what I mean by that, Trish, is that we use a compassionate curiosity as a filter when we see others. Right. And that we are open to considering that they're living something that we may not understand or be aware of. And obviously that comes from lived experience, but because I'm now safe to use my voice, I want to speak up for those who aren't safe yet, and help create space for them to find that safety and then be able to speak up for themselves.
What's really interesting about the topic that you speak of is it's also not gender biased. It happens on both sides. And it's something that I think perhaps with COVID, we've become a little more receptive to discussing, but it's really not something that we speak about because there's so much shame and negativity, as you say, put towards the topic that it makes people very apprehensive to come forward, to even seek help or advice, because nobody wants to feel that they're discussing something that's uncomfortable.
And there's such a cultural concept of this is their business, that's under their roof, and that's between them, that's in their home, like partner, I'm not going to go there. On the other side of that is we're afraid that if they do need help, is that going to impact our own personal safety? Sure. Where do we find the help? Where do we how do we help them? Yeah. So let's just, and we don't want to think that those things are happening.
Right. Yeah, I agree. I love the education component. Because, when we educate our peers on topics that we're passionate about, we give other folks an opportunity to step in, to help, or to show up in a way that maybe can help. So I really appreciate the fact that not only do you have the book that starts the journey about helping people manifest the life that they're looking for, but your podcast shows create the stage for the voices to come forward. Mm-hmm. And then the speaking topic that you have gives people a chance to learn and become empowered by helping others and connecting with their communities. So it's really rather interesting how you've sort of taken a theme of interest and education and empowerment and resilience and wrapped it all up in a bow that gives people a chance and a platform, right? Because that's the really important thing, I find.
I agree, Trish. And people have different ways of taking in information. They have different ways of processing and different ways of then taking action on that. And so if you offer them a multiple way of doing that, it's really helpful. Another book I'm working on, there's a couple, at least two more, but one is called Hope in Hell. And it's a compilation. It's an anthology of stories that women will be sharing. And it'll likely include men too that are willing to share.
Sure.
It'll all be shared anonymously just to keep a consistency across it. But in the meantime, there are, as I collect enough stories for this book, which all the proceeds will go to organizations that support people dealing with abuse.
Right.
As I collect those, though, I'm publishing them, and if people want to share their name, I'm fine with that. And those are being shared on the blog. They're being shared in my magazine as well, so that others can gain hope and courage for where they are at. My story is one story, but the other stories will resonate differently with people and also land not only with the people who are in it, but those who are witnessing things that feel a little off or uncomfortable, and maybe it will give them the courage to open those conversations of support.
Now, you mentioned that you took over a magazine. So this was a publication that had obviously had some resonance in the community. What was that transition like? So, because, here we are talking about entrepreneurism and the fact that we're taking a look at the behind the scenes life of business owners. How did the connection happen when you decided that you were going to purchase the magazine? Was it a referral? Did you find, were you reading a publication and saw a post somewhere? What was the connection that was made between the two business owners in order to facilitate the sale?
I'm glad you asked this, Trish, because it's a fun story, I think, looking back and how quickly I knew. I saw a friend of mine was going to be speaking at an online event. And I thought, let's just grab a ticket to that and support her and listen. And the host of the event followed up with a phone call, I think the day or two after the event, or within a few days. And she said that there was a group meeting, a networking group for women called Womanition that was going to be meeting in Red Deer the very next day after our phone call.
Wow.
And I was in the between things. I was looking for something. I just published all these 17 books. I was kind of like, okay, I finally did that. And I had my blog.
Next?
Yeah, kind of what's next, Yeah. And I don't have a business to promote. I was going to do more coaching from those books and around those books. I went into the event and they were in Red Deer. So I thought, well, I'll go to this luncheon event. And she did mention that if you bring a door prize gift, you're entered into a draw and you could win in 5 minutes to pitch. I take a set of my books. I happen to win the draw. I get 5 minutes to pitch. And I'm thinking, okay, what am I going to pitch?
Yeah, exactly.
So I talked about my books. I talked about how that had happened and about the coaching, and then met and networked with, there was probably 15 or so women at the lunch. And I met Dorothy Briggs, who is the founder of Womanition. She's also the founder of Divorce Magazine Canada. Absolutely phenomenal woman. And she had these different opportunities available to be featured in her magazine. And then she had a copy of the Divorce magazine. And she remembers me saying, because I was talking to all these new people and excited to
Sure.
meet them. And as she was gathering up, because she's from Edmonton, her display, she said, "Was there anything of this that you wanted before I pack it up?" I said, "Yeah, I want it all." And she remembers me saying, "I want it all." And I was working with a coach and I said, I'm really fascinated. I can see where I could help her grow this divorce magazine because I've self-published, I've built websites, I've written, I've done social media management. I could really help her grow this. So we had a conversation and she said, "Actually, you know what? I've been looking for the perfect fit to turn this over to sell to." And she's quite open with her age. And at that time, she's like, "I'm going to be 74 in the spring. And I just want to focus on womanition," which was her main focus anyways. And I said, "Oh, okay." Well, she said, "Do you want to buy it?" And I just, yep.
Wow. Talk about serendipity and an
Yes.
opportunity landing in your lap.
Yes.
What a great story.
So the annual print edition was going out like within 2 months. And when it's a print, it's far more
Yeah, far more work.
logistics and, the graphic, the layout and everything.
For sure.
So very sharp learning curve. I did bring in some more clients in the meantime. She offered support. Like she said, "I'll mentor you for a year and help you through all of that." But I remember having around this time, because this was the end of 2022. So early December, I bought it. I remember early January of 23 having at least one night where I just had to get up and just bawl my eyes out. I just felt so overwhelmed. I felt so inadequate. I thought, what am I doing? I don't understand. And, I got through those times
Moments of
I
doubt.
rebound very quickly.
Yeah.
I'm a creator and a connector.
Yeah.
So this is such a great fit for me. I get to be creative and design things and have these layouts. And so I added a podcast right away. I actually was brave. I published in the magazine went out in the middle of February. And I said, "There's a podcast coming." I designed the cover and everything.
Good for you.
And then, so I'd committed to that.
Yeah.
And it was in print. So
Good for you.
pretty much engraved in stone. So by March of 23, I'd already launched the podcast, and within a
Good
couple
for
months of
you.
that.
Oh, that's fantastic. You know what I love is you've mentioned through our conversation some of the past skills that you had acquired that you felt would lend itself to the pivot and a successful marriage, shall we say, between the new opportunity and what you had been doing in the past. And I think that's something really important for our viewing and listening audience to connect with is we take things, little tidbits of what we've learned in our JOBs and that we then apply to entrepreneurship because, very few people right out of the gate, leave college or university and start a company. They do. It's not that it doesn't happen, but it takes a little time to acquire the skills that you need to be successful in entrepreneurship. And I really love the fact that you've mentioned some of these wonderful skills that you had acquired in terms of the creativity and the connectivity that you can now apply to your new venture. So thank you so much for sharing that behind the scenes review of how the taking over of the magazine came to be. That's really quite cool.
Thank you.
One of the things that we do in the guest blog is we talk about 3 words of advice and we ask folks to share those. And yours are don't give up. So wrap up our conversation today by giving our viewing and listening audience the reasons why those 3 words are important to you.
Trish, I even use these as a subtitle on my manifesting book. And it's don't give up on what you want most. Again, this is around, we don't know how many days we have. We've, especially as women, typically have kind of put some things on hold for our parenting years, if that's a path that we've chosen, or, we got to go to school or build a career. But what are some of those things that we've pushed aside and just decided, okay, there's not enough time for that, or I had this dream, it's kind of silly, or whatever. So that's one of the ways that I encourage people not to give up on those. And my book guides people through to kind of dig in. And is there a way that I can do this maybe in a different way or in a smaller way, or take little steps towards it? How can I incorporate some of these things into my life? And maybe now I'm actually not as interested as I was 10 or 20 or 30 or 40 years ago, but at least I can put that dream to rest if it's like, okay, I did actually give it a go. Or you might be surprised at how much joy it brings to your life. It may turn into a side hustle and an opportunity to make it a business, but in another way, not to give up, in a deeper, more profound way, is we may have given up on using our own voice. We may have given up on feeling like we deserve happiness. And we actually might still be living in an unsafe, literally unsafe, psychologically unsafe. And you talked around the education piece, around, back around the abuse. And this is very significant, is that even the legal definition of intimate partner violence includes non-physical forms of abuse. And many people associate this as only a physical thing. Sure. It's highly destructive, even when it is not physical. And we discount that part of it. And so part of healing is not to give up and just say, well, this is, I guess, the best it gets. This is my life. This is as happy as I can expect to be. This is how I saw my parents, or whatever it is that you're telling yourself. Question it. And I want people to start with themselves, with that curious compassion. Offer yourself that compassion and that curiosity. You deserve it. And just pause and say, am I happy? Is there something I'm missing? Is there something I've just given up on? Because I think that you might be surprised. Jot it down if you feel safe to do so, or put a note in your phone where you can remind yourself, okay, this is important to me. Is there a way that I can do it? Is there somebody I could share this with? Because sometimes when we share it, there's a little more accountability, you're a little more invested, and you're a little more likely to do it. So find ways. Maybe you also have the courage to put a picture on your fridge that you walk by and people go, hey, what's this about? And then you can talk about it. And that's also a little steps towards manifesting and not giving up and going, maybe this could be possible. So this also offers you a way, if it's healing or growing or growth or personal development, is you also inspire others. And sometimes that's the incentive. So you maybe are inspiring your children, your spouse, your friends, whoever might be part of your circle, that notice a difference in you and a little lift in your energy, because now you've opened the door and you've offered yourself some hope and inspiration. And sometimes that's the incentive that we need, is that we will be inspiring others.
Yeah, for sure. So as our final question, I'm going to ask you, where does Deena see herself in the next 6 months or a year?
Well, I am actually going to be focusing a lot more on the advocacy, on speaking.
Perfect.
And that's where I am.
That's your focus.
Headed. Yeah.
Excellent. Excellent. Well, I know that our viewing and listening audience is going to be interested in connecting with you. And so they will be able to find your contact information in the description portion below of today's episode. So thank you so much for joining me, Deena. It's been really a wonderful experience to go on the journey that you've taken as an entrepreneur. And it was really wonderful to share some of the highlights with us. So thank you for joining us.
I really appreciate the invitation, Trish.
To you, our viewing and listening audience, I'd like to thank you for tuning in to this edition of Keeping It Real. And I'd like to send my personal thanks to our sponsors for their ongoing support and invite you to subscribe to our show, Business Mentorship, Keeping It Real, found on YouTube and your favorite podcast channel. Deena and I would like to thank you for joining us, and we look forward to meeting you next time when we meet another small business owner and celebrate their great idea.